Simple and Out has a number of amazing reports that help you get to the bottom of the information that you're after inside your Simple and Out organization. Today, we're going to focus on the export report, which, aptly named, is great for getting a lot of data out of the Simple and Out system in only a click or two. This report generates what is called a CSV, or a comma separated values file. This is a file format perfect for spreadsheets. So whether or not you're using Microsoft Excel or Apple's Numbers or Google Sheets or Airtable, doesn't really matter. Simple and Out's got you covered with our export report. So let's go ahead and take a look at an export report in action. So the first thing you'll have to decide is, how long do you want to run this report? We will let you export up to 6 months of data out in a single click. But for the purposes of today, I'm only going to pick, let's just pick the last 2 weeks so we have a little bit more data to look at. Now you can choose the output format. We have a detailed format and a summary format. Details, great for seeing the ins and outs and status updates, etc. Whereas a summary format is a lot better for seeing aggregate time. We'll come back to that. We can choose whether to group these by date or by user. And then, of course, like almost all of our reports, you can filter this by the users you'd like to see. In this case, maybe I'd only want to filter by a managers group, or of course, I can filter by individual users in here as well. Let's go ahead and click Run Report. Now, as you see, when I hit Run Report, this report's going to generate. It could take a little bit of time, especially if you're generating up to 6 months of data in one shot. But we're all set. Let me go ahead and download this report, and then I will open it in my spreadsheet application of choice. So here we are. This is, I'm using a Mac, so this is Apple Numbers, and you can see what we have going on in here. So we have a status ID. That's just a unique ID that we have that under the covers in Simple and Out that you can mostly ignore, but if you have a reason to need this, then there it is. We have a user identifier as well, and then we have the name of your user and their details. We can see their groups that they're in. And then here we get to the actual status. This is the status update that they did. This is the comment they left behind, the date it was created, and the time. So you can see the exact moment in time that the user created this update. The application, so you can see the application they created the update by. We have change by administrator. Did the user create the update themselves, or did another user create it on their behalf? And then we also have a column for automatic. Was the update created automatically via something like a geofence or a beacon or a network or a desktop presence? Or was the update created manually because the user took a manual action to do so? So as you can see, this is all great information across these users for all of this time in chronological order. Now heading back over to the website, let's take a look at what would happen if we changed our report output and decided to look at a summary view instead. So we'll flip over to summary view. I'll click run as well. Now, what a summary view is going to do, again, is this will aggregate time for us. That way we can see what the aggregate totals are for a user's availability. So I'll go ahead and download this, and I will click the button to open it up. And now we'll see that this looks very different. So now we have our users, in this case, our 4 users we ran the report with. We still have some user information on the front end of the report here. But over here, every day has its own column, and we can see an aggregate number. And this number is the number of minutes the user was in one of the statuses we targeted, an available status in this case. So you can see the number of minutes. Now you may ask yourself, why do you want to see the number of minutes and then the total minutes at the end of the day? And the reason why is because in this case, because we're using a spreadsheet, this makes it possible for you to run a number of different kinds of calculations and formulas on this data. So maybe you want to aggregate all the time a user was in, or all the amount of time that users were on break during the days. You could do all kinds of manner of things with your favorite spreadsheet application and total time expressed as an integer. Okay, now heading back one more time, let's take a look at some advanced options that we offer. So if I fold down advanced options, these advanced options will change depending on your report output. In this case, because we're still in our summary output, we can choose which statuses do we want to aggregate together to come up with that total that total available time here. Right now, you'll see by default, we're calculating all the time users were either in or remote or busy. But if you're choosing to want to count things differently, you absolutely could do that. If you want to include break time, for example, or maybe you're counting the number of minutes users were sick, you could do that as well. We also have our summary format. As I mentioned earlier, it's in minutes, so you can perform formulas. But if you're actually looking to export this data and you don't want to run any formulas, you can go ahead and use our formatted labels, where we will format it in a format like X hours and X minutes instead, which is great to visually be able to see that time calculated. Now we have only these comments are considered. This allows you to do amazing things like hyper focus down only on the time that a user was in a particular status with a particular comment. So for example, maybe I'm running this report for users that work from home. I could uncheck all this and leave the remote status on, and then maybe do something where I'm looking for the word home. Now this will now aggregate the time where a user was in a remote status, and they must add the word home somewhere in their comment. And then finally, we have a time zone over here. By default, this will always be the time zone you're currently in. But if you're traveling, you may need to adjust this to a time zone that you're used to seeing your report in. Now, if I go back from summary back to detail view, you'll see our advanced options change, and we have the only comments considered and the time zone option as well. And so this allows you, again, to change the details that you're seeing spit out into only these particular options. So that is the export report. It is the great way to get a lot of data out of Simple and Out in a hurry with only a few clicks for your spreadsheet application.